Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Mountain Harmony Gardening. I'm Kristen, and today we're going to be talking about what I'm going to be planting in my garden. It took me a couple weeks to finally make all my decisions on what I'm going to be growing in my garden this year, and then it took another 2 days to draw up all of my garden plans. And we'll be going over the garden plans in detail in another episode. But I just wanted to touch base with everybody and let you know what I'm growing in my garden this year. So the first bed that we're going to start with is that long bed where we change the pumpkin trellis up. And I break this bed down into 4 different drawings that I have here. And that way I can kind of figure out which bed is going to get what, even though it's all technically one bed. So we're going to start with the pumpkin trellis. And that is not changing this year, other than we're not going to grow peas in that area. They're going to go to a different area. So we're going to still do our pumpkins and our spaghetti squash. But we're also going to be growing some basil, some cilantro, and some nasturtiums underneath that trellis. Because last year the roly-polies completely ate all of the bok choy. And everybody knows, if you've watched my other videos, I have a huge problem with roly-polies. So this year I'm going to try to deter them from eating all my plants. So that's what's going to go in that bed. Then right down from that is the 2 large trellises are kind of hooked together at 2 different levels. And we're going to switch where we grew the tomatoes last year and where we grew the cucumbers and melons last year. They're going to be swapped just to do a little bit of crop rotation. So on the upper trellis, which is closest to the pumpkins, we're going to be growing all of our tomatoes. And I decided that I'm going to thin down on the tomatoes that we're growing this year. We're going to do spoon tomatoes. I'm going to try the Kellogg tomatoes because I've seen this on another channel and he highly recommends them. So I decided, we're going to try them. And then I'm also going to be growing the black cherry tomatoes because those are our favorite tomatoes to grow. You can put them in salsa. You can eat them just right off the vine. They're very versatile for being a cherry tomato. And I'm going to grow, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to grow 8 this year. So I'm going to spread them out a little bit too, because last year it seems like they were too close together when I tried to squish 6 plants in on one side. And I want to give them a little bit more airflow and a little bit more room to grow this year. So that's what I'm going to be doing in that area. The next area, I decided that I am only growing 3 types of plants this year. We're going to do the rich sweetness melons that we grew last year. They're the ones with the kind of yellow and red stripes on them, really pretty, and then they fall off the vine. Those ones do so well that I'm going to grow a lot of those. And then I'm going to try 2 different types of cucumbers, one that we grew last year, and then a new one that I'm going to try this year because our cucumbers did really well. So I want to try to stick with just a couple of things this year and kind of make it a little bit more simple to really figure out what is going to grow well in those areas. Now the next bed is just down from that, and it is the one without the trellis that we grow all of our melons and our big vining melons. So I decided that I'm going to grow the Kajaris because the Kajaris do really good in our climate, and they are the ones that produce the most. And they also ripen the quickest because they are such a small melon. And I'm going to try the Early Girl watermelons again this year because they did well too. But I'm just going to grow those 2 this year so that I have more plants and hopefully I get more of a harvest this time. Now the next bed that we're going to talk about is the raised garden bed behind the house where the raspberry trellis and the lilac are. And I am not growing the peppers and the beets and such in that. We are actually going to grow 3 Sisters method. And I'm really excited about that. I haven't tried this before, and I've tried corn before and it didn't do fantastic, but I'm going to grow the whole entire bed, which is a 3-foot by 12-foot bed in corn. We're going to put the Madurash melons that we grew last year beneath those, and we're also going to grow the beans up them. I am really excited about this experiment, and we're going to be talking about that on its own video too. Very excited about this one. You're probably wondering, well, where in the world are you going to put all the peppers that you grow and the beets and the carrots? Well, I'm going to be putting the peppers in the cinder block around, like my little pockets that I talk about. I tried it last year with a couple of peppers and they actually did really well. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put 1 pepper per little cinder block. Well, I guess 1 cinder block holds 2. So we're gonna be putting 1 in each of the pockets, and I'm also gonna be putting flowers and some herbs in with them as well. As for the other herbs, or not herbs, excuse me, other vegetables, like the beets and the carrots, we're going to be putting them in the grow bags this year because I did not find any roly-polies, but maybe like a couple in the grow bags. And I think it's because their sides have a chance to dry out, whereas in the raised bed, the wood gets wet and it stays wet, and the roly-polies love that. So we're going to try something different. And I have 5 grow bags, and I'm going to do probably a couple of each in each of the grow bags. And we're going to start radishes first, and then we'll plant carrots. And then when the radishes are done, the carrots will have the room to grow. So that's what we're going to do there. That way I can still have my peppers and know they're my root crops. Now, the old greenhouse area. That's the kind of more rectangular bed that's right in front of the really long bed. I'm going to keep that almost the same as I did last year. I'm going to be buying new tomatillo and new huckleberry seeds because the huckleberry seeds last year just weren't viable. They pretty much were past their, usefulness. And so I'm going to buy new huckleberries, and those will go along kind of the back. That way they don't shade out the front. And then I'm going to be growing this zucchini vertical again because it did so well this year. I was so pleased with that. But I'm going to be taking out all of the fennel. And where the fennel was, I'm going to be putting in a couple of broccoli plants because that one broccoli plant that we had in the garden last year did well, and I want to have multiples of them this year. The other bed is the one right in front of the shed, and that's kind of our shady bed where we grow the kale and we grow the collard greens last year. I'm hoping that one perennialized kale comes back, but after having to cut to the ground, I'm not sure it will. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do kale, broccoli, and Swiss chard in that garden, and I'm hoping that does really well. And then behind it, we're going to build a whole entire new trellis, and the peas are going to grow up that, and I'm hoping that I can get a longer harvest out of all of the peas. And I'll be putting up on screen throughout this whole entire video pictures of the garden and pictures of some of the things that we're going to be growing. So we're narrowing it down quite a bit from last year because last year was more of an experiment to see what I could grow in some of the new areas. But this year I think I have a better understanding of what grows and doesn't, and I want to focus on what grows in our area. So I hope this inspires you to make some changes in your garden and also to take some, maybe some hints or some inspiration for what I'm growing this year. So thanks for watching, everyone. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment. Happy gardening, everyone.